I want you to imagine this. Your father owns a cocoa farm, right? And not just any cocoa farm, but one of the biggest cocoa farms in Ghana. And because of this, every year, a lot of people from all over come to buy from him. And because of this, the farm makes millions of cedis worth of cocoa. But then somehow, at the end of every single month, your family still struggles to pay the electricity bill. You haven't been able to fix the leaking roof. School fees are always a problem. And anytime you ask your father what was going on, he just tells you, we have cocoa. So at this point, you stopped asking how much cocoa the farm produces. Instead, you started asking a different question. If we have cocoa, then where is the money? Now, that is the same question a lot of Ghanaians has been asking for years. Because Ghana has gold, not just a little, like a lot of gold. As a matter of fact, it is one of the biggest producers of gold in Africa. Gold has always been part of our history. It is the reason why most people even came to this country in the first place. So here's the question. If a country has so much gold, why doesn't it feel like it? Now, before any of us jumps into any conclusions, let's do something different. Let's follow the gold. Right from the moment it comes out of the ground to the moment it becomes worth billions of dollars. Because I have a feeling the answer isn't where most of us think it is. So, where does all the gold go? If you ask that question on the street right now, you are probably going to hear one particular answer more than any other answer. The foreigners are taking our gold. It is a simple answer, and to be honest, it is an answer that is easy to believe. After all, we see huge mining sites, we see trucks carrying gold, we hear stories about companies exporting it. So it is natural to ask, if all this gold is leaving Ghana, what do we get in return? Now, before we answer that, let's clear up one misunderstanding. You see, a lot of people think when gold leaves the country, Ghana doesn't make anything. That is actually not how it works. Think about it like this. You have a piece of land, right? Then you allow somebody to farm cocoa on that land, and during every harvest they take the cocoa and they sell and they make money. Does that mean you don't earn anything? Of course not, because you probably charge them to use the land, or maybe you even agree that you take a percentage of the produce after the harvest. That is how mining works. Mining works in a very similar way. The mining companies don't just simply dig up the gold and disappear. They pay different kinds of taxes and royalties. They employ workers. They buy goods and services from businesses operating in Ghana. Those are just some of the ways the country earns or benefits from its natural resources. So it is not true that Ghana doesn't earn anything. But if Ghana is making money from the gold, why do so many people still feel like they are not seeing the benefits? Maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along, because the mystery isn't whether Ghana makes money from gold or not. It is whether we are making enough from it. And to answer that question, we need to follow the gold one more step further, because digging it out of the ground is just the beginning of its journey. So let us keep following the gold. Imagine two people, for example. The first person owns a gold mine and every day he digs gold out of the ground and sells it. But for the second person, he doesn't own a gold mine at all. Instead, he buys that same gold and turns it into expensive jewelry, uses it to make parts of phones, computers, and even medical equipment. Now here's my question. Between those two guys, which of them do you think is likely going to make money? Of course, the second person. And that's the part most people don't think about, because getting the gold out of the ground is only the first step. The bigger money often comes later, after the gold has been cleaned, refined, designed into different products, or sold in different forms all around the world. Think about cocoa, for example. If you sell raw cocoa beans, you'll probably make money. But if you turn those same raw cocoa beans into chocolate with beautiful packaging and build an amazing brand around it that people love, you can make so much more money. Gold works in a similar way, and getting it out of the ground isn't just the end of its journey. So maybe the bigger question isn't, does Ghana have gold? Maybe the real question here is, how much of that gold's journey happens here in Ghana? Because wherever the biggest part of the journey happens is usually where the value stays, and that is where this week's news becomes interesting. You see, over the past few days, Ghana has started a new policy. The country will now buy a larger share of the gold produced by some of the big mining companies here, with the aim of building up Ghana gold reserves and supporting more local refining over time. Now, when I heard this, I was like, okay, that is interesting. But then I asked a different question. What difference could that actually make? Well, remember what we've been talking about this whole time, that the aim isn't just to dig the gold out of the ground, but the bigger goal here is to make sure Ghana keeps more of the value that comes from it. If Ghana is able to hold more of its own gold, build stronger reserves, and process more of that gold here in Ghana, then over time that could mean more opportunities, stronger industries, and a bigger share of the value staying here in the country. But here is something I think is very important for all of us to remember. Even if this turns out to be the right move, you don't just plant a tree today and expect shade tomorrow. And that's not how trees grows, and that is definitely not how economies also grow. Real changes takes time, sometimes years, sometimes even more. So right now it is too early to celebrate, and it's also too early to say it is not going to work. For now, it is simply one step at a time, and whether this becomes the beginning of something much bigger depends on what happens next. So after everything we've talked about, I believe we can all agree that the bigger question here isn't does Ghana have gold, because we already know the answer to that. Yes, the gold is there. The bigger question here is how do you turn something that is very deep underground into something that changes people's everyday life? Because having natural resources and becoming a wealthy country aren't the same thing. History has shown us that some countries have very little, yet they've built stronger industries, created jobs, and changed the lives of millions. Others have been blessed with valuable resources, and yet they still struggle to turn those resources into lasting prosperity. So right now, the most important thing here is that everything that happens after the gold has been discovered, the decisions, the investments, the industries, the people, maybe that is the conversation we should be having, and not just how much gold we have. But what are we doing with the opportunity that it gives us? Because at the end of the day, gold sitting underground doesn't change anybody's lives. What changes the lives of people is what the country decides to do with it. I'm Remy, and if this video made you see Ghana's gold differently, then wait until you see what I found out about the flood that is happening in Accra. Feel free to go and check it out. It is the previous video after this, or should I say it is the first video on this channel. And thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. See you in the next one.